Get ready with me while I explain how ICE took my husband and why we might lose everything because of it. We were at our marriage based green card interview, which is like the last step to becoming a lawful permanent resident. We were totally expecting to walk out with a green card that day when ICE barged in the middle of our interview, took my husband, handcuffed him, and took him away. No explanation, no valid basis. Seeing as we were about to move back to Minnesota, where I'm from, he was our sole source of income before he was arrested. And now I'm sitting here trying to think about how I'm going to pay for our rent and all of our bills while dealing with this disaster because they cannot tell us when he'll ever be released. I went from planning our future, starting to open up our own business, to now wondering where our next paycheck is going to come from, how I'm going to afford to live in such an expensive city. We live in San Diego, to try to fight this and get him out of custody because he doesn't deserve to be there. The thing no one's really talking about is the fact that overstaying a visa is not a crime. Right now, San Diego is taking people and putting them in deportation proceedings for overstaying their visa, whether that be a work visa or a student visa. My husband was here on student visa. And overstaying is not a crime. It is in civil court. It's a civil violation, very similar to a citizen not paying their car registration on time, not renewing our registration on time. It is not an arrestable offense for overstaying a visa. Other than that, my husband has done nothing to warrant being put in an ICE detention facility. He's currently being held at the Otay Mesa Detention Center on the border of the United States and Mexico. So now here I am. I figure, the worst thing that can come from this is that it helps me pass the time and reconnect with my community, since I've been inside pretty much alone for the last week, crying uncontrollably and trying to stay strong for him. But hopefully, I can figure out how to make do by supporting us in the meantime, because I have been applying for jobs. I have a law license. I'm an attorney, but right now we were transitioning to move. I wasn't planning on getting a job until we relocated. And now I'm trying to figure out ways to support us while he's there, just to keep our house and keep up with our bills. I figure if telling our story will also help educate the public, even if one person sees this, I don't really care, but to at least start spreading the news that it's not about doing things the right way. We were doing things the right way. We were at our green card interview. We were in the court system, but they started deportation proceedings anyway. We've been married for over a year, and we need to start getting this information out there, because people who are okay with these proceedings, I feel like they would feel differently if they really knew what was going on.
Imagine this with me for a second. You're a US citizen, born here, you vote here, you work here, you live your life thinking you're safe. You fall in love, you get married, you build a life with someone you trust. You drink together, maybe even plan a family, a home, a future. And then one day, ICE shows up. Your husband, your partner, the person you built your life with is taken away. Not because he did anything violent, not because your marriage isn't legal, not because he broke the law in a dramatic way, but simply because immigration law doesn't care about love. My name is Faith, and if this is the first time here, do me a favor, like, subscribe, and join the conversation. Today we'll be talking about love, law, and impossible choices. Let's see more video clips. Credit to the original creator of this video.
I'm going to tell the story about my husband being taken by ICE in the middle of our green card interview. So for starters, when we were taken back for our interview, they took us past like 20 open offices. Like, I'm talking not a person, not a computer, nothing on the walls. And they took us to the absolute last office right next to the back stairwell. And we then proceed to, participate in our interview. We had our attorney there, for everyone asking. Yes, we had a specific immigration attorney. And we proceeded to go through our interview. And then at one point, the woman who was doing our interview takes her key card out of the computer and just says, "I have people in the hallway waiting to speak with you." And at that time, 4 ICE agents came into the room. "We have a warrant for your arrest," kind of shaking it around. Not really. I was so in shock that I didn't think to look at it. I was like, this is not happening. I can't believe this is happening. They proceed to handcuff my husband. And I asked one of the agents, I said, can I please bring him his glasses? We had left his glasses at home, and it still makes me emotional now because he asked me on the way to like turn around for his glasses, and I was like, no, we don't have time, we're running late. And I just asked the ICE agent, I said, can I please bring him his glasses? And he said, after someone is put in custody, anything you bring them is considered contraband. And then they proceed to give me this. And this, they said, would answer any further questions I may have. It doesn't, by the way. And obviously, you can't see it this way, but on the front of this card, it literally says verbatim, check out the worst of the worst. Who is ICE arresting in your community? And split us up. They take him out the back and into an unmarked van that was waiting, and then they take me and parade me through the waiting room of people waiting for their interviews. I cannot imagine the fear that it instilled. Everyone watched me walk back with my husband, and everyone watched me walk out without him, fall to my knees, and weep. And I cannot stress enough how they must have been feeling after that. And I can't help but insinuate that that had to be intentional, because a lot of things have happened since then that can't be explained other than going through processes trying to instill fear to get people to not continue in these legal processes. I have since heard from my husband, and he had mentioned that when he was taken out and put in the van in the back of the USCIS office, there were already some people waiting in there, and the driver was like, 5 more, we can fit 5 more, go get 5 more. And then this QR code is supposed to tell you where your significant other ends up. You're supposed to be able to track them. However, it takes about 30 hours for them to book these people into a detention center. The entire time, no shower, no brushing your teeth. They keep the lights on at all times so no one's getting sleep. It's absolutely inhumane. He proceeds to tell me that they also had him like signing things regarding upcoming hearings. The issue with that being, I told you he can't read without his glasses. Why are you having him sign things and not really giving them an option but to sign, because they don't know what they're supposed to be doing and they're going to do what you say. Signing things that they can't see or read. And to further that, I have shown up so many times trying to get him his glasses, and I am told no every single time. Now he has gone almost 2 weeks without glasses. And I was also standing in line with a poor man trying to bring his wife insulin, to which he was told that's contraband. If she really needs medical attention, she needs to seek it from our medical staff. And on that note, I was like, if you take 30 hours to book these people into these detention centers, you're telling me this woman went 30 hours without insulin because she wasn't even having access to those medical professionals. I will proceed to talk about the conditions, both what I've seen from inside the detention center and what I've been told from my husband and other individuals. Now we have a group chat with many wives who are in similar positions. So I will continue to talk about that, continue to talk about these issues, and bring attention to this matter, because what's happening is not right. It's inhumane. I will continue to make videos. I will continue talking about this. And I understand that a lot of these things are very controversial. They make a lot of people uncomfortable. And I think it's about time we start having these difficult conversations and participate in the discourse and have conversations. If anything, I'm glad that this is inciting conversation. Everyone is constitutionally entitled to their own opinions, and that's great. But at least we're talking. We need to start talking about this, especially because people aren't aware that shit is going around like this. Like, you can't, and whenever I go to the facility, they're playing like cops and investigative things on the TV in the lobby. Like, you can't convince me that you are not making it your sole goal trying to instill fear in these people and have them abandon all the work that they have done to get to this point. And so, like I said, I'll continue talking about this and sharing stories and sharing about the conditions. So if you are interested in that, stay tuned. And if you're not interested in that, you should still stay tuned and become educated on what's really going on.
Let's take a moment to picture her life. She had every right to be in the United States. She had citizenship. She had the law on her side, at least on paper. She married an immigrant. There were like thousands of couples across the country. They thought marriage meant protection, that love meant security. But here is the reality most people don't understand. Marriage does not automatically give someone legal status in US. The immigration system is a paperwork. Deadlines, processes that take years. One small mistake, one delay form, one missed appointment, and your life can completely change. Think about waking up one morning thinking life is normal, and within hours, everything you knew disappeared. Ice doesn't knock loudly. Sometimes it's early morning, sometimes it's at work, sometimes a tragic stop or routine check turns into nightmare. One moment, life is normal. You are having breakfast, laughing with your spouse. The next moment, they are gone. And it's not about the person being taken, it's the family left behind. The shock, the fear, the confusion. That's the main thing. People often ask, how can someone married to a US citizen be arrested? Doesn't marriage protect families? Unfortunately, the law doesn't work like that. Once ICE is involved, everything move fast. There is no pause for heartbreak. The system isn't built around love, it's built around rules.
TikTok influencer Hannah Silvera has confirmed that her husband has finally been located, but the circumstances surrounding his detention and transfer have triggered serious human rights concerns. According to Hannah, finding him was unusually difficult after authorities transferred him to a facility he was never supposed to be sent to. During that time, her husband was reportedly pressured to sign paperwork approving a transfer from San Diego to Louisiana, while their attorney was unavailable due to a federal holiday. What makes the situation even more alarming is that officials were fully aware he does not have his glasses and is unable to read documents properly, yet he was still asked to sign. He was told the paperwork was merely to approve a transfer to a temporary holding facility near an airport, supposedly to speed up the next stage of processing. Instead, he was transported to a detention center nearly 2 hours away, a facility described as having severely degraded and inhumane living conditions. Photos shared from inside show overcrowding and conditions that appear far below the standards required of traditional correctional facilities. This update has shifted the conversation beyond one family. If immigration enforcement is truly about legal status and due process, why are prison systems held to constitutional standards, while immigration holding facilities are allowed to operate under far lower conditions? If everyone inside the United States is subject to constitutional protections, then why are some people treated as if they are exempt from basic humanity?
My husband and I finally made the difficult decision to leave the United States. It was not an easy decision, and it came from a lot of conversations. But we finally realized we're fighting to stay somewhere that not only is he unwanted, but we're fighting to stay in a place that's just falling apart more and more each day and becoming an unrecognizable place. My husband came here to study English and to be part of everything the United States had to offer, which was a better life. The irony. Let me tell you a few things that I'm also forfeiting as a US citizen that our country fights so hard to protect their interest. I am now forced to go live in another country just to preserve my marriage. This comes with leaving my family behind, leaving my law license behind that took me years and years to get. I'm not licensed, obviously, in another country, so I have to find an entirely new profession and start over entirely. Being a disabled veteran, someone who broke their back and both of their hips in the military, I am now forced to forfeit my personalized care plan that I have worked the last decade to develop with my physicians. I have medications that I take on a daily basis, and the VA does not ship them out of the country. This also just means that our kids will not really have a relationship with my family. How did we get to a place where the destruction, the waterfall of destruction is just so normalized? I can't stress enough how much I'm not trying to make this about me as much as I'm trying to shed light for those who truly don't get it yet. You should care that your fellow citizens are now being forced to leave the country to stay married. That's where we've gotten, and if that's okay with you, what the hell? To stand 10 toes down behind this administration and to support them at the expense of your fellow citizens should cause alarm bells. You should not be able to rationalize that. This is not as simple as some people are making it out to be. This will easily become a channel of watching us start over from scratch. I've got to find a new job in a country where I need to learn how to speak the fluent language and uproot everything I know, just because I fell in love with an immigrant. Stay tuned for our journey and watch me pack up my entire house alone, because I'm also robbed of any help in this process, because my husband will be in ICE detention until the time that they drive him from the facility to the airport. Is America great? I have yet to see it. Get ready with me while I explain how ICE took my husband and why we might lose everything because of it.
If the next words out of your mouth aren't that you voted for Kamala Harris, I'm going to have a hard time carrying here, but go ahead, proceed.
Our marriage-based green card interview, which is like the last step to becoming a lawful permanent resident, we were totally expecting to walk out with a green card that day when ICE barged in the middle of our interview, took my husband, handcuffed him, and took him away. No, he was our sole source of income before he was arrested. And now I'm sitting here trying to think about how I'm going to pay for our rent and all of our bills while dealing with this disaster, because they cannot tell us when he'll ever be released.
On first blush, it's hard to tell. Did you vote for Donald Trump? Now, if you look in the comments, you say, I did not vote for Donald Trump, and that seems like a case closed, right? Well, a lot of investigation has been going on by the sleuths on the internet, and they found your repost, and a lot of it looks hardcore MAGA. A lot of Charlie Kirk stuff, a lot of anti-Kamala Harris stuff, a lot of pro-Donald Trump stuff. So are we talking semantics here when you say, I didn't vote for Donald Trump? Did you not vote at all? Because not voting at all is just as bad as voting for Donald Trump. You sat at home, and instead of voting for somebody who would move this country forward and protect somebody like your family and your husband, you voted for somebody who was going to deport everybody. Mass deportations now. How many times do I have to call out the signs that were the RNC saying mass deportations? That, well, I didn't know it was going to be like this. I didn't vote for this. Yes, you did. The sure as fuck you did. This is exactly what you voted for. You just didn't think the leopards would eat your face. You fucked around, and now you're finding out. And you come on here and you say, well, I didn't vote for him. Yeah, you didn't vote for Kamala Harris either. And you spread Donald Trump and MAGA bullshit before the election and after. You get no pass. Just because you didn't vote for your husband technically to be removed from this country and deported by ICE doesn't mean you don't have the blood on your hands of what is going on in this country. I don't care if you didn't walk into the booth and vote for Donald Trump. By abstaining and by sharing the information you did, you sure as hell might as well have, because it's the exact same in my boat. So I don't care. I don't have any sympathy. I'm not broken up, because this is exactly what you voted for, and to say anything else is total gaslighting. So fuck around and find out, my friend.
I can't find my husband. My husband was granted voluntary departure out of the United States, and a judge ordered that
She voted for Trump. You've probably seen this video. And when I say that I'm suspicious of white women every time they come on this app, because I know the tears only come out when they feel guilt. She voted for Trump and understood his policies. And instead of taking accountability, which I don't really know what her form of accountability was, she's in the comments asking for forgiveness because it personally affected her. Her inability to protect her husband, her Brazilian husband, comes back to the point we've made before. Your whiteness, your proximity to whiteness, will not save your loved ones. So my advice to the conservatives who are now asking for forgiveness, the MAGA, the Republicans who were like, well, we didn't vote for this, to which, yes, you did. If you want forgiveness, pick up, go to your nearest ICE hotspot and start. We'll forgive you then. If that's what you want. If you want forgiveness, you know what to do.
I'm finally going to speak on the you voted for this because it's detracting from the message of my content, and I'm really sick and tired of this. For one, didn't vote for Trump. I don't know how many times I need to say it. I posted my voting history. You can see that a ballot was sent to me and then I didn't send one back. And clapping back at people on the internet, some people, it makes them uncomfortable. How in the world do you get to tell me I deserve this? I deserve for my husband to be kidnapped and his rights violated, And then I don't get to say, yeah, F you. I continue to speak out on the fact that I used to be conservative because I feel like it is beneficial to the cause to inspire people not to lose hope on the people that they don't think are ever capable of changing their minds. I was so far one sided because I was extremely religious. I'm talking about going to church 3 or 4 times a week. I was on a Bible quizzing team, okay? I was as religious as they come. And deconstructing from that takes a lot. I still have a long way to go. I still have a lot to learn, but I'm also doing as much as physically possible to make up for lost time. I'm going to continue making content about how I used to be a conservative, not because I love all of the hate that I get and the assumptions about my character, but because I think conservatives need to be aware that it is okay to like change your mind. That I get that it's scary. I get that it's scary to abandon every single thing you've ever known and walk away. And I also think liberals need to know that someone that grew up like that can also come to this side and be so wonderfully passionate. You can like me or not, it's none of my business, truly, and I really, honestly, can't find my husband. My husband was granted voluntary departure out of the United States, and a judge ordered that my...
She voted for Trump. I need to make a very quick clarification, and I'm so sorry to this creator. She apparently did not vote for Trump. I misspoke. She showed proof. Technically, it's not really proof, but moving on. She claims that she didn't vote for Trump. She didn't deny the allegations that she was pro-MAGA and conservative. She's open about it. She talks about being conservative. So I'm sorry about that. However, a little quick dive onto your page, and I pull up your GoFundMe. And everyone already knows how I hate GoFundMe grifters. So you were conservative, pro-MAGA, didn't really think this was going to affect you. Now you're crowdsourcing money so that you can escape the consequences of your inaction. Like, you want us to give you money so that you can rebuild your life with your husband abroad, and we have to deal with the consequences? Am I hearing that properly? I actually thought this story couldn't get worse. And, like, I'm not trying to send hate to this creator. I want people to be allies. But if your allyship is sus, I'm gonna call it out. I'm so sorry, but you're saying that you're a changed woman. You want to be an ally. You want to rectify some wrong, the guilt, and your solution is give me money so I can escape the regime and they can go back to killing all the black and brown folks that they've been killing forever, and I get to live financially stable with my Brazilian husband. Am I getting something wrong? That's why I say you cannot trust white women. I'm so sorry. You can't trust white people, period. What the actual fuck? The point of my video from last time, which I think people misunderstood, and this is the only part that matters. You want to be an ally, start using your bodies. Pull up your goddamn pants, you fucking freak. I'm talking about put your bodies in front of the people who are trying to harm us. How can I make that any more clear? You are afraid? Great. Go stand between the people who ICE is targeting and put your bodies right in front of them. If that's why you want to be an ally. I'm so sorry. We don't need your words. We don't need your GoFundMes. We need you to protect us and use your damn privilege, because quite frankly, you have benefited enough. You want to be an ally? Start using your damn bodies.
Here is the part that hits harder. She had a choice. Stay in the US, safe, legal, protected, keep her job, her friends, her routine, her home, or leave everything she knew, uproot her life, and go where her husband was, because that was the only way to keep her family together. She chose love. Think about that. That choice isn't moving. It's leaving behind families, putting your career on hold, starting over in a new country, giving up a life you had every legal right to continue. Citizenship gave her rights, but it didn't give her peace. And this isn't an isolated story. Thousands of missed statues, families' life with this fear every single day. Why are US citizens forced to choose between their country and the marriage? Some say law is law. That's true. But these laws can destroy families. They can punish love instead of protecting it. How do you reconcile a system that allows someone to make choice between love and security? Think about the emotional cost, the heartbreak, the anxiety, the uncertainty. These are real lives, real families, and the law doesn't stop to consider them. Let me ask you something. If this happened to you, would you stay in the country that took your spouse, or would you walk away from everything to keep your family? No right answer, just impossible choice. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you or someone you know gone through something like this? Let's have this conversation. It's real and it's happening now. Most Americans don't understand immigration until it hits their home. By then, it's often too late. These stories challenge what you think about fairness, citizenship, and justice. They force us to ask, is this system protecting family or enforcing rules to the cost of love? For me, status families, there is no steady net. Every routine stop, every official check, every paperwork mistake could change their lives instantly. And that stress, that fear, isn't something numbers or policy paper could capture. It's deeply personal. In the end, she didn't leave the US because she wanted to. She left because love demanded it. And that makes us ask, what do we do? Can we debate laws and policies all day, but the human cost? That's something no law can erase. Her story reminds us that love is powerful but fragile when it meets rules that don't bend. Take a moment today to think about the families living with this fear, people making impossible choices every day. And remember, behind every law, there are human lives. If this video spoke to you, like, subscribe, and share. Someone watching this might be living in this story right now, and they need to know they are not alone. See you in my next video.